Welcome back to today's MasterCoaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz. My name is Bob Bertucci, and I am joined by fellow Master Coaches Kathy George, Mick Haley, and Bill Walton. Our topic for today is Volleyball Day in Nebraska. The recognition of an event held last Wednesday, August 30th, 2023, an event that made national and international news. On that night at Memorial Stadium, at the University of Nebraska's football stadium, the University of Nebraska hosted Volleyball Day in Nebraska, the match between the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and the University of Nebraska-Omaha. That was attended by a record-breaking crowd of 92,000 fans. That crowd of more than 92,000 also surpassed what is widely regarded as the world record attendance for any women's sporting event. And that was previously a record held during the Women's Champion League soccer match at Barcelona, Spain. Previous to that, the American women's sporting event that held 90,185 was the FIFA World Cup soccer final in 1999 at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Now, this record is held by a women's collegiate volleyball match. Today's guest, Dr. Jaime Gordon, the Executive Director of American Volleyball Coaches Association and former Athletic Director of Morehead State University, is our guest. And without further ado, Jaime, welcome to MasterCoaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz.
Hey, Bob, thanks. It's great to be back with you all, and I appreciate the invitation. So I must not have done too horrible of a job last time. Happy to join with you.
No, we're glad to have you here. I'm going to start things off, Jaime. And again, thank you for being here. I know you're traveling. You've been on the road for over a week. You were at this match, and I let our listeners have a sense of what it felt like to be at a volleyball match with 92,000 fans.
I have to say there were multiple times during the event that I got choked up, and I wasn't the only one. There were people around me, and the weight of that event and what it meant to women's athletics, to volleyball, even to the University of Nebraska. It was evident there. The university did an unbelievable job with their production of it. The event was a first-class event. It made me feel like I was. It reminded me of a Final Four, men's basketball Final Four in a dome, with the game on a stage and everybody around him. The military flyover. It was pretty spectacular. And one of the things that I want to make sure doesn't get lost with this event is that this was very organic. The initial focus that John Cook and Trev Albers, their athletic director, was to regain the regular season title back from Wisconsin. And so by doing this, it would give them a shot at maybe 20, 25, 30,000 was their dream goal. And as soon as those tickets went on sale, they just had to open up more section after section after section. So this wasn't the result of some brilliant marketing scheme. I think this was a very organic and evident event that shows the strength and the power of volleyball right now. And it got, as you mentioned, national news. The next day, it was on all three morning shows. The Today Show was the lead. It was picked up by NPR, the New York Times, Forbes magazine. So it was beyond the normal sporting media outlets. It was popular news. And as I've been going through airports and things like that, it's not. I don't have too many strides before I have somebody comment, "Oh, did you see what happened in Nebraska? Did you see what happened with volleyball?" It's a really special moment, and one that I think we're going to be reliving and remembering, and kind of looking back at a potential watershed moment for our sport.
Well, that's kind of the other part to my question, how would you categorize this event, in the scope of women's collegiate volleyball? I think the athletic director might have come out and said after the event, we didn't even need to have a concert or this thing or that thing. The volleyball match did it on its own.
Yeah, I think and that's what's got a lot of people's attention. I had the pleasure of spending a lot of the day with Charlie Baker, who's the new president of the NCAA. We had invited him to be a part and to experience it. Some of his staff was along, and I can say, and I've mentioned this in a couple of different places, Charlie Baker is a volleyball fan. Actually, when I picked him up at the airport, he had his phone out and was like, "Hey, I've got this great play from last year's tournament, and it was South Dakota and like Houston." And he starts showing this play where the libero's running into the press table and playing and stuff like that. So, there's the excitement of the sport. And then when you start to see, hey, here's what the potential future of the sport can be, and where the investment can come into, because I think this is the other part that is getting a lot of notice, is that volleyball has gotten to this point without a whole lot of investment, without a tremendous amount of pull from a male counterpart. It is women's volleyball that is driving this bus and this train and moving these things forward. And I think it's starting to get people's attention in really big decision-making positions of, well, what could this be if we make some investment in it? What could this be if we start to separate our championship away from the media rights package? What could this be if we start looking at corporate championship partners specifically for the volleyball event, and not have it just packaged with the men's basketball sponsorships? And so, women's basketball has seen a tremendous growth, but that's also after 25 years of significant investment that's finally made that click of last year's watershed. And so for us to see that, again, just on the backs of you all, and I hope that Mick and Bob and Bill and Kathy, that you are taking pride in this moment, because it's a result of the foundation that you all have laid for this sport, so that people in our positions now are able to enjoy it.
It's funny you say that, Jamie, because I hate to age myself, but I was really at the very beginning of college scholarships from the NC2A and starting this all off. And you think about men's sports that have started in the early 1900s and the momentum that they've had over the years, but look at how fast volleyball is moving. And I'd like to say also that last year, women's volleyball was the number 3 sport behind football and basketball for viewership on television and through streaming and all of those things. And so the momentum is real. And what you're talking about is it really wasn't just to follow anybody else, but it's really just kind of what's been going on without as much push. What do you think, or do you see the effect of this experience, which, by the way, I cried too, watching it? It was so here, and to see what was happening. What do you think is going to come from this, or what have you heard?
Yeah, I think, again, as I had mentioned, I think especially at the NCAA level, they see this opportunity. And that's, a big part with any large association is, where do we have opportunities to grow? Where do we have opportunities to grow attention? Where do we have opportunities to grow revenue? And with, over the last several years, just in general, women's athletics and how it's become more front and center, volleyball has really shown itself as really a great buy. So if you're looking at this like a stock, volleyball is an incredible value stock, because you can get in kind of at the low level, and it has a super high trajectory here. I think another part that gets, we see these attendance numbers, and it's not just Nebraska. I think Cincinnati opening weekend had a record crowd. South Florida had a record crowd. we're seeing in multiple places around that are disassociated from Lincoln, that they're seeing those things. But the big network, or Big Ten Network, which kudos to them, they did an outstanding job of the production of that event as well. It showed outstanding on TV. they're making investments in volleyball. But that broadcast had the second most viewership in the Big Ten history for volleyball. I think it was Nebraska and Wisconsin on Black Friday as they were battling for a championship that had just a slight bit more viewership. And the other thing that I think is getting the attention of businesses who are looking to invest, the NCAA that's looking out 10, 20 years in the future, is that our demographic of viewership is young. It is one of the youngest demographics that you're seeing. It is also one of the higher percentages of female. So what any good business analyst is looking at is saying, wow, this is a young group, so we've got a lot of history there, but they're also seeing the sentimental value of volleyball, of mothers and daughters going to events, fathers and daughters going to events. This is what was the backbone of like baseball, is that father and son going to the ball game and things like that. And so to look and see, hey, what's the sustainability of this sport 10 and 15, 20 years away? You've got an incredible foundation of your fan base as well.
Jamie, moving forward a little bit, Terry Pettit, the former coach at Nebraska, was quoted, I believe on Twitter, as urging coaches not to try to copy this kind of thing, but to move forward in trying to increase the number of fans in maybe bigger venues or the venues that they're playing in to get more people to be able to see the game. Jared Elliott came out Sunday or Monday in the Austin American-Statesman suggesting that the next place to go for him might be the new Moody Center with 16,000 seats. He plays in a very packed 6,000 seat arena if he can get that many in there. And Pettit played in the Coliseum for so long, and we tried to get him to get out of the Coliseum because Nebraska was such a hot spectator base. What's your thought on the way the coaches should go forward after an event like this?
Yeah, I think, well, if there's anybody we should listen to on this, it's Terry Pettit. I mean, he really built that foundation for that program. And I agree with him 100%. And really, I think there's a tremendous model in the Nebraska, kind of, I won't say phenomenon, because it takes real effort in building grassroots. And that's, with when they were in Memorial Coliseum, and it was such a hard ticket. And then there was some question of like, oh, when they go to Devaney, does that change things? Is it gonna, are they going to be able to fill it? And of course, right away, it's a hard sell. I'm interested to see. I've not had a chance to talk to John Cook about this. They've got the Pinnacle Bank arena right there in Lincoln. Is that something that has future for them? But I agree. We need to make sure that we build up where we are, be strong there, create that foundation, and then step on. But I think that and again, I saw, I didn't get a chance to say hello to Terry, but I'm sure he was incredibly proud on last Wednesday, and just to see what has come just from the efforts that he placed into that program and into that sport.
So Jamie, do you think that maybe the focus shouldn't be to chase the football stadium concept, but make sure that each individual university is getting into their bigger facility on campus and selling that and trying to fill that facility as a first step?
Yeah. I think what you've got to do is, and it's funny. I spent some time with the NCAA staff, and we were joking because I was like, hey, we better be moving our championships into domes because we've got a new bid process cycle going through. And I kind of meant it in a joking way, but there is some at some point you've got to figure out, okay, what are those next steps? What does the capacity build? But I think you've got to be strong at where you are. So to Mick's point with Jarrett, absolutely, they've done a great job of creating a high demand there. So maybe they are ready to make that next step. But I wouldn't shoot, too high. I saw a little article, I think it was yesterday, where Dave Shondell was, I think, kind of joking that I think it was, maybe it was serious, but that the way that they could beat that was to play it at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that would be a good way to get 150 or 300,000 people at that. So, but I think to that point, Purdue is playing and they're crushing it. They've got a great environment at their place, but can they move to Mackey and start to build that same type of environment? And I think now's the time to start pushing that and pushing our administrators to say, hey, this is the right time to invest.
So speaking of pushing, coaches that are successful are normally pushers. Some are well skilled and can communicate a little bit better, but honestly, my athletic director never wanted to see me coming in the door because I was always asking for something. I was trying to push to the next level. A lot of coaches feel like athletic directors are so busy, that their schedule is so filled that they really don't want to see you, that they want you to manage that program and good luck and win if you can. But I've got bigger fish to fry here because it's fall and it's football season. You've been an athletic director. How do you coach the coaches to approach the athletic directors on going to the next level? How do you make a point? Does this 92,000 make a point that maybe volleyball is a revenue producing sport and we should start having a plan down the road for how we're going to increase this? How would you talk to the coaches about this?
Yeah, I think, and Mick, you're exactly right. And I, even as somebody who's a volleyball person, as an AD, you have certain things that you're focused on, and there's tremendous pulls and draws from football and basketball. And so this, I'm kind of tie this into what's next after this event, and that is we've got to work at this from top down and bottom up. And so from the top down, from the NCAA, when they start saying, hey, we're going to make this investment, that matters coming down to administrators. There's a reason that also there's a lot of investment in women's basketball, is because at the NCAA level, there's a lot of investment in women's basketball. There's a lot of investment in men's basketball. So if we see that investment happening at the top, then to your point, Nick, we've got to be prepared to have that conversation and be ready to say, hey, these are the standards of what excellence in our sport looks like. This is the standard of a game production. This is what marketing looks like. This is what community engagement looks like. And here's some patterns. Here's some examples of how this happens. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to make sure that we're adapting the wheel to our specific areas and markets. And so whether it's a mid-major program like Morehead State that has a tradition, or Creighton who's doing great jobs, or it's Nebraska, Texas, Wisconsin, you've got to all kind of think about how do we continue to move that. But a key piece for this in that conversation with administrators is the investment at the top from the NCAA. And I really, and I'm just optimistic, but I believe that they're ready to do that.
Well, I said to these guys earlier when we were preparing for the show, I just was really, thrilled about the fact that, John probably has this idea, let's win this attendance award. And by the way, let's just do this football thing. Let's put it in a football field. And AD goes, yeah, let's do that. I believe that, and everybody just went for it. So I think that sends a message that, you can do great things and get behind things. And certainly they put themselves in a position to do that. So I have to say, you met the AD there. Yes.
Yes. Just real quickly in passing. Their chancellor, from the very top, the president believed in it as well. I got a chance to spend a little bit of time with the chancellor there. As well, and they believed in it, and so it's funny, it wasn't a surprise to them from the top down.
That's what we all want to hear. It's good stuff. Fun. But
back to you, Bob.
Yeah. All right, well, Jamie, we really appreciate you coming on. I know you have to catch a plane, so we don't want to hold you too long. But we did want to have you back again. All right. We want to talk about conference realignment and how that impacts volleyball. And we surely want to talk about the AVCA convention that's coming up this year in Tampa. In fact, my understanding is the NCAA has already sold out all the tickets for the event.
Great.
So that means coaches need to join the AVCA convention because that's their only way to get a ticket right now.
Pretty much. And you know, Bob, you mentioned it. I was going to kind of throw it in there, but I think we're going to, you know, see this as being a very historic season for volleyball. In what was kind of bookmarked in Lincoln and then down to Tampa, because as you mentioned, they are almost sold out, and their capacity is 19,600 and change. Right now, the championship record is 18,775 in Columbus. So we're going to see another record more than likely be broken by attendance at our championship that's being broadcast on ABC, and it's in Tampa. It's outside of Big Ten country. It is going to an entirely different region. Yeah, and crushing it. And so I think it just shows well what we can do.
And we surely don't want to have the championship in a football stadium in Omaha in December.
Definitely not. Maybe maybe something down in Miami or something like that. We'll look at.
Well, again, Jamie, thanks very much. Safe travels, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Tampa.
All right. Thanks, y'all, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jamie.
Well, let me go ahead and introduce our next guest. All right, Coach Dani Busboom-Kelly, head coach at the University of Louisville. She arrived at Louisville in 2017, where she made an immediate impact. Her team was picked to finish 8th in the ACC in the preseason poll and ended up competing for the ACC championship. And she's continued to garner success ever since then. She has been the 2017 AVCA East Regional Coach of the Year, 2018 USA Collegiate National Team Coach, and won the Europe Gold Medal, 2019 USA High Performance Coach, 2020 and 21 AVCA East Regional Coach of the Year. I know this is unbelievable.
It's a long one.
Yeah,
She's
2021, 2022. 2022 was the National Coach of the Year. Kath, I've coached for 45 years, and Dani has gotten more done in 5 or 6 years than I have done in 45 years. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, she's a rock star. Oh, she's killing it.
All right. And prior to coming to Louisville, and it's important for today's discussion, Coach Kelly was an assistant coach at the University of Nebraska, as well as a player. So let's welcome Dani to MasterCoaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz.
Thank you guys for having me.
I hope we didn't embarrass you with all that, but it is pretty phenomenal what you've accomplished. You're clearly a leader, and a leader for women in the sport right now.
Well, I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun, that's for sure. So definitely still enjoying every day, and going for more records, I guess, more records and more like breaking barriers.
That's so cool, Dani. And I'm looking at you in your hotel room, and I know that you guys have a match tonight at Dayton. So you've probably been getting ready for that.
Absolutely. It's we started a little stretch of some tough matches, and as everybody, ramps up the non-conference. So it'll be a tough one tonight. Dayton looks really good. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous about this one.
Well, if it's not a little nerves, you know that you're not ready, right? So it's you always have that little thing, that little edge.
Exactly. 100%.
So Dani, I remember watching you as a player, and just a pistol, and you played hard and drove your team to winning, and it was just awesome to watch. And then to see what you're doing as a coach, you really are doing a great job. So real proud of that. Wanting to ask, you had to have a different, you have a position that nobody else has. You've been a player, you've been an assistant, and you're watching this, and I'm sure you weren't there because you were busy, but you're watching this. Tell me what you felt. What were your emotions?
Well, I was I don't know why it surprised me. So I'm going to say I was surprised, but it's weird because I don't know how you keep underestimating Husker Nation and what Nebraska does for the sport of volleyball, but just really blown away from like how it came together and the event and how amazing it looked on TV. And I don't, it was really incredible to be an alum and to see that Nebraska still takes volleyball seriously. It's like they've already done a lot for the sport, and it's like, no, that's not enough. We're going to do more. And definitely a very proud moment.
Yeah, you watch that and you think, okay, first of all, there was the attendance juggling back and forth and seeing what they could do, but you're right, they just stepped up again, and I'm just curious as to what do you think that this event has on all these other collegiate programs, including yours and everybody else that's saying, hey, they can do this. What can we do? And how do we use that? So what do you see coming forward from it?
I've just seen a lot on social media, mainly of other ADs, retweeting or posting about their volleyball programs. And I think that it really opened people's eyes, and that was really important for our sport. And I hate to say it, but we continue to be underestimated a little bit as a sport as a whole. It's like, when are people going to wake up and stop underestimating us and to keep pushing it forward? Because there's very few times that we have not delivered when we've been given the opportunity as a sport. So I think it's huge. And I've already seen it, here at Louisville. Just, wow, okay, they did that. What can we do? Now we're not going to have a game in the football stadium anytime soon, but there's a lot of great things that we can do to push the sport forward.
It's absolutely true. And Mick, you had brought something up about that.
Yeah, I had,
next,
Kathy,
right?
and welcome, Dani. It's always nice to have you on. I loved watching your team this year. It seems like there's no let up. You got them back and you got them swinging. So it's pretty fun to watch. But Coach Pettit has been out on the airways. He's pretty thrilled about the 92,000 and all of that. And he's got his own show, and we do a little battle with him still, which is really quite fun because we're all competitive. But the thing he said that's very interesting is he said that coaches shouldn't try to duplicate this 92,000 football stadium deal. Jaime Gordon said just a little bit earlier that Dave Shondell thought maybe he'd take a game to Indianapolis Motor Speedway and get 300,000. I don't know if Purdue could pull that off, but it's interesting. But the point that Terry made, and also Jared Elliott in Monday's paper, the Austin American Statesman, was coaches should start either maxing out their facilities or moving to a bigger facility and trying to fill those down the road. You've had a facility that has people lined up down the street, blocks to get into your game. Pettit had Memorial Coliseum. Jarrett's got Gregory Gym. There are other small venues between 4,000 and 6,000 that are packed full out there. Ohio State built a new one, and they're filling that at 7,000 or 8,000. What's your thought about this and the way we should be moving there?
Well, to be honest, at the beginning, I was very much in the camp of I want to have the best home court advantage we possibly can. And so our facility, just taking Louisville as an example, our facility is small, but it's amazing. It gets really loud. It's super convenient for the players. It's great. The ticket's in high demand, but I have changed my tune. I think last year we played in the Yum Center twice and had amazing crowds both times. And, I really agree with Jared and Coach Pettit that, we need to continue to push the sport forward. We should be using these other arenas, especially when we know we can get a lot of eyes on us. And we're trying to play more games down in the Yum Center every year. And we have great, community engagement. It's helped our players. Now there's so many other things too, like NIL and all that helps when you can get more eyes on us. So I'm in favor. We're here at Dayton. They have a pretty fantastic volleyball only arena, but they have a great basketball arena. It's like, it would have been cool to see, what we could have done while all these schools are breaking records, and not just at Louisville, but I agree everywhere we should start capitalizing on what's being built right now.
And not only that, you've got a conference that's going to add Stanford next year. You've got Georgia Tech with a smaller arena. You've got Miami with a smaller arena, Boston College with a smaller arena. You've got a number of these smaller arenas. Has there been any talk in your conference? Because your conference is going to have at least five teams next year that are going to be dynamite. Could be 5 in the top 10, I think, is the way you guys are thinking. Have you guys talked about this and how you can pack those arenas? I noticed Pitt, I think, is playing in their basketball arena. They draw big time every time you guys come in there.
No, we haven't really talked about it as a conference or among coaches yet. I do think that's coming. I've seen some of these other arenas recently. I saw, Wake Forest built a new arena and they had that maxed out this past weekend. So, it's just growing and growing and growing. And the good thing is a lot of schools in the ACC do have the ability to go to multiple arenas. It's just, picking the right times and promoting it the right way.
So Dani, in talking with Bill, off show, he had mentioned that the 4 programs, it was announced that the 4 programs in the Nebraska Day of volleyball split $1 million between 4 programs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, pretty incredible. I know that was kind of the deal going into it. I know some of those other programs had said it would be more than their entire budget for the whole year. So I'm sure they were absolutely thrilled, and it's pretty incredible just to be a part of it.
Bill always has all these, little tidbits of information. He also mentioned to me that Texas and Stanford outperformed the WNBA game the same day on the same channel. That seems to me to be pretty telling of where volleyball is going these days.
I agree, and that's why I said it's frustrating as a coach at times. Like, you're so proud, but you're frustrated that everybody keeps underestimating what volleyball can do and how we can perform, and in our own cities, on our own campuses, and on the national stage. So, I think the Nebraska Day really did help open up a lot of people's eyes. And again, hopefully those moments of being underestimated are coming to an end.
Well, are you seeing everything just grow from way back when, and it's just gaining momentum, and it's thrilling to see. I sat there. I was telling you this earlier. I was just watching the game, and all of a sudden these tears, just without me even feeling them, started coming down because of knowing how much work has been done and how everybody's pulling together to make this type of thing work. So, thanks to all of you.
I think it was emotional for anybody who's cared about the sport, and pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to go okay with Dayton today, huh? They've got some good ones.
They do. I mean, they're always good. They're well coached and they play clean, and their gym is unair conditioned. So we're going to have some, we're going to have some distractions.
They hang over the edges, over the top too. Yeah.
So it's a great environment though, and a true test for a road environment. So I know we're going to be as ready as we can be, but it is one of those stressful matches because everybody's talking about these next 3 that we have coming up at, Penn State, Kentucky, Stanford. They're like marquee matches for us, but Dayton is very, very good. And
those are the ones you got to keep your eye on for sure.
Yeah. You got to play Dayton first before we even, those might not even matter as much if we don't get past this one.
Well, Dani, you mentioned about Dayton's gym and the environment, and I've been in that gym and played many games, in that gym, Atlantic 10 championships and so on. Is it time for a school like Dayton to take the game and move maybe a marquee game like, Louisville against Dayton into their big arena?
I would say, yeah, you never know what's going on campuses with scheduling and conflicts and what, how they're using these other arenas. We run into that with the Yum Center sometimes, like a concert comes in because the city owns part of that arena. So we can only do so much, but I do think it's time that everybody should start looking at that and looking for opportunities to play marquee matches. And I'm all in favor of keeping your home court advantage, and you want to give your athletes the best shot to win. But again, I want to do our part, and hopefully other coaches will start doing their part. And I'm guessing you're just going to see more and more games being moved to bigger arenas if it's available.
And, I have to say, from a pro perspective, for all this to be kind of happening, and then the leagues starting up this year, it's pretty exciting. And the momentum is coming from you guys and hopefully carried through from there. So
yeah, I hope so. I know our former athletes that are, going to play pro in the U.S., they're super excited. And I saw like Nebraska, Omaha sold, on almost 3,000 season tickets. Feels like that's a pretty good number this early without even playing a game yet. And it certainly has some momentum, which is exciting.
Absolutely. Well, good luck to you. We don't want to keep you too long. You probably have to get back to that scouting report or maybe talking to the team. So,
well, before we let her go, though, Kath, I have one other question I'd like to ask her. What's your perception about the two teams, Stanford and Cal? Because Mick had talked about Stanford, a little earlier.
Yeah.
Coming into your conference, what's that going to do to the enthusiasm of volleyball, in the ACC, and what kind of new challenges do you think that's going to bring?
Well, I think it does a ton for enthusiasm for the ACC. We've always, I feel like, been seen as not as good as the Big Ten, and SEC is doing so much to catch up to the Big Ten. Now it's like, okay, we had Stanford and Cal and programs that have won national championships and been in the Final Four. It just strengthens our conference as a whole. And, like Mick said, we could have 5 teams in the top 10, probably for the first time ever. So it's pretty exciting from a volleyball perspective. The travel is going to be interesting, and coaches are going to have to collaborate on, how to make that work. I've already got a text from Salima about sharing a charter out to Cal and Stanford, which would actually be pretty fun, when you really think about it and add a different element to being an athlete. So at the end of the day, I think it's great, and it'll be great for volleyball. I have not talked to the other coaches on campus how they feel from other sports, but for us, only positives. Now, it's going to adding more great teams, a little tougher to win the ACC championship, but we're excited to add those two.
Well, great. Well, on behalf of the Master Coaches, we really like to thank you, Dani, taking the time on a busy day just before a match to come. And like Kathy said, we don't want to keep you any longer. We appreciate your perspective, and it was great to have a chance to talk with you.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks, Dani.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to our buzz reaction and give our Master Coaches a chance to comment on some of the things that we heard during the interview with both Jaime and Dani. Mick?
Well, a couple of things. I had hoped maybe Jaime would be a little bit more forceful, but I think he's kind of feeling his way in the leadership role of this. But I do think he's open to discussion and open to the coaches' discussion, and I think he's going to be our next great leader at the AVCA. So I thought all of the things he said were extremely important. Not much new there, but we need to get him back on and ask him about these conference alignments and that sort of thing. As far as Dani's concerned, I was excited to hear what she had to say. If I read between the lines, she wants to be in the Yum Center, and she thinks she can fill it. And I think she can too. She's also excited about the quality of the ACC. She knows it's going to be tougher to win that. Jaime mentioned off camera when we were talking to him when he came on about these large conferences. They'll have 18 people in their conference now, I believe. And what that means is one team is going to win and 17 are going to lose. And when athletic directors start saying, hey, you need to win the conference, there'll be a whole nother level of pressure going on the coaches. She didn't quite talk about that, but she did mention that it will be tougher to win the conference, adding Stanford. Don't know about Cal. They haven't been back up there in about 8 years since Rich Feller left. So we need to wait and see with those guys. But SMU has been playing at a pretty medium level that could rise up also. So that conference is going to be difficult. We need to get back with those guys how they're going to manage 18 teams. It will be very interesting to see the scheduling.
Well, going off that a little bit, just as you think about being Stanford and Cal, they have to do a lot of travel. They're doing it all the time, where maybe Dani and, with Notre Dame, they're going there and playing, and then they're done with that leg. Stanford and Cal have to keep coming. It's going to be interesting to see Big Ten, all these conferences. How will they manage those schedules? So that's yet to be seen a little bit, but I think there's a certain. It's really is awesome when you have so many great teams playing, and every night is so important. You can't overlook. Like, I love what she said about Dayton. I mean, that's a really important match, and so taking care of business right now. But every night there's going to be that level of competition and the excitement of it. So I got to believe she's excited for that.
Have you played in their basketball arena there?
Not in the little one. You mean where she's playing, or
no, in the
Young Center,
in the basketball arena. I played an NC2A regional there.
Oh, yeah. I've been there
a
watching.
Fantastic volleyball facility.
Absolutely.
Everybody's tight to the court.
Mm-hmm.
They have one end zone that's all glass for the boosters to sit. It's a great way to promote volleyball. I thought it was a better volleyball facility than it was basketball facility.
Right.
And they host a basketball regional or first or second round almost every year. The city of Dayton really goes all out. Wouldn't it be nice if they go out for volleyball also, because they've got a facility that can really do that. That game tonight, if they were playing in the basketball arena, I believe would sell out.
Be full. Yeah.
That's why I was mentioning maybe that is the marquee match to have there next year or the year after. That probably could sell out. I mean, I've like Dayton has a tremendous crowd coming to their existing facility, and Dani's right. It's gonna be a barn burner tonight, I think, just because of that home court advantage.
See, I worry about the heat of the small gym because that's where athletes get hurt early season. The floor gets wet. They get overheated. Spectators have problems. It's kind of a downer for volleyball when there's such a great matchup. And she's right. Dayton is playing well. I've been watching Dayton. I've seen 2 or 3 matches, and he always gets them playing. But this team this year is playing really well, really early. And so I think this could have been a marquee match held in the main gym if they could have worked that out. So I don't know. That's just my thought about it. I kind of agree with Kathy on that. And
there's a lot of there are a lot of volleyball programs that do play in their basketball arenas. I think, we've got to continue to use the momentum to get out there and fan raise and fun, just all of the things that go into that. And I know marketing is such a big part of it, but really getting the emphasis and maybe AD support to market it as a primary sport and putting the dollars into that, I think will really have a nice effect, which Jaime alluded to. He said, hey, with little effort, this is what's going on from everybody across the country, and look at the momentum built. What happens when you actually do start to put more dollars into that, into volleyball?
When I was coaching at Texas, we played in Gregory Gym, and then we played in the rec center. We drew 4,900 in 1989 gym, and it was so hot and sweaty versus Hawaii. Hawaii was right at home because they played in Clum Gym at that time. Those of us that are old enough know Clum Gym, 2,000 sweaty bodies right next to the floor. But every time we went to the Irwin Center, which was the basketball arena with 20,000 seats, we drew 1,500 more fans above our average draw, no matter who we played. And they weren't marquee matches that we really advertised that much. And the reason for that, I maintain, and Glenn Litsky, my assistant at the time, always kept track of this because he felt we should be in the bigger arenas, even though it wasn't as much fun for the fans early on. The fact that people know where to park, how to get there, what seat they want, what concession stand they're going to go to, and when they're going to leave is the key thing. And if you play in the number 1 arena in your town, everybody knows it's a big deal. So they all want to come. And I maintain if cost us, We had to draw 3,000 fans a night to play in the Irwin Center in the 80s and early 90s to break even. If we drew 3,000 paying fans, we break even. You were not in Breslin, but did you have an idea when you were at Michigan State to play in Breslin, what you would have to draw to break even if you played in that facility?
I knew that it was $10,000 a match. So if you were there for a week and it was 20 grand that you had to offset, depending on your ticket prices and those types of things, what it was to even it out, I don't really know, because you had you had to have your the police and the usher, just everything that you had to go in, and how much was volunteer versus. But I do know that was the number, and because Breslin Center is not the basketball facility either. It is actually a Michigan State event center, and basketball has to rent it as well. So you kind of look at that. Now, women's volleyball is currently over at the Breslin Center, so that's where they're playing. And so they have moved out of Jenison and done that.
So shouldn't we advise coaches to actually check it out, see what the costs are to have an event in there one night, see what their magic number is for spectators, and make the marketing for that event each night that they play in those facilities, try to hit that number or over it so that they could show that they could do a good job like that?
I think it's a combination. That's my personal opinion, is like, you got to get the enthusiasm there, start building it up and getting it going. Like when you were at Gregory and you were filling that up, there's an appetite to go, and everybody's like hard to get a ticket. And then they moved into, and that's when you got those 1,500. I think there has to be a real response from the ADs to say, hey, we're going to get behind volleyball. Look at it. I'm going to tell everybody in these areas, marketing and everything else, that, hey, volleyball's important to me and important to, our athletic department. So get behind it. Let's start really pushing to, help build that attendance and get the enthusiasm there, and also look at those new facilities, which you're saying 1,500. I'm saying you've got to create some of this as well. And
I'm
it does.
talking about 1,500 over what we normally.
I know.
drew.
I understood what what you said. I understood what you said.
Mick, I kind of agree with Kathy, and I don't disagree with what Terry Pettit's saying at all. But I think there needs to be steps. You need to be filling your current facility and develop, a buzz just about coming to the volleyball game. And then you make that jump into that bigger facility. And the reason I say that is because when I was at Temple University, we had an athletic director that came in. He's a great guy. He came from Long Beach State, and he immediately wanted to use the new facility at the time. And it's at 20,000 people. We weren't ready to go into that facility yet, and we went into it, and we had like 1,500 people come to the game, and it looked like no one was there. Where if we had 1,500 in our current facility, it would have looked packed. And if we had been able to do that with the top-down help, all right, for multiple games like you had done in Gregory, then that move would have been perfect. So I think we need to be looking towards going to those big arenas with the programs that are ready to go to those big arenas.
Like you look at Purdue, I mean, they sell out a ton, and they're at there's like 2,500, and they're ready to move up for sure. They need to be getting themselves into, bigger arenas, all those people that are really, getting the excitement in their communities, and they're getting people behind them. I think there's a lot of them that are ready to move up, like Dani, being in a smaller facility. I mean, that program has outgrown, where they're currently at. They're going to be able to build to do those types of things for sure.
Well, Purdue is for sure ready to go into Mackey Arena.
Sure.
I played Purdue in Mackey Arena as a special match one time. It was a great facility. It was way fun.
Yeah,
and
it's so steep, and it's like right on top of you. It's good.
I thought it was great. I just
look. I think there's a lot of programs out there.
Was that the facility that the bench was below the court?
That was in Minneapolis.
That's Williams Arena. Yeah.
We played in Minneapolis, and it was played on a stage in Williams Basketball Arena, and we were nose to the floor. We were looking across the floor with our nose there. That wasn't so much fun, but some people just put a chair up on the top.
Yeah, they have the coach at the top.
Yeah. But honestly, we won 2 national championships at Texas in no air conditioning before we got air conditioning. We got moved up to less fans, less seats, and air conditioning instead of more seats. We went to the rec center had to rent it and pay for it like we did Gregory, but got air conditioning, and that's what we got. And I thought we got held back. If we could have gone to the Irwin Center, we would have done what your basketball coach did at Michigan State, Kathy. We would have bussed in high school programs every Sunday at Breslin. You would see women's basketball 10, 15 years ago, and they would be busing in 10, 15 buses full of high school kids. They created their own crowd, they had backing for that. And they put money into that to develop that basketball crowd. You could have done the same thing in half the time for volleyball up there had you had that kind of support.
And they put the money behind those buses to get all those people. They did hometown heroes, and they sent the buses, but the AD paid for, they paid for those things to bring those hometowns to celebrate different athletes. I thought it was genius. I mean, they really did pack the place, and it was awesome to watch. And we did the same. I mean, we moved up, but we stayed in Jenison, but our attendance went really, I mean, it grew to where we were in the top 10 in attendance for the last 5-6 years. And it was great to see that grow, but it takes a lot of effort and work. And I think, I keep encouraging volleyball coaches to do that. I mean, get involved, get people to get involved, and build it. It will happen, because volleyball is such an exciting sport.
Well, I'm just hoping that, Volleyball Day in Nebraska, opens up some AD's eyes that, when they have these programs that have outgrown their current facilities, that they're saying, hey, let's go ahead and make this move with volleyball. Instead of continuing pouring more and more money into women's basketball, that's losing participation.
Well, I think they can do both. I think it's like, I will tell you, I felt like if we could get them in the door, right? If they came and watched it, even if they didn't know volleyball, they were gonna go away and they were gonna become season ticket holders. We'd bring different people to courtside seats, and you have the libero like flying into the person at their feet, and they're jumping and they're athletic, and everybody's starting to buy season ticket or courtside seats that never saw the game before. And we started doing educational series for fans, so they understood the game. And you have to be innovative and grow it, because once they start to understand and watch it, people love this sport. And you can really see that with the numbers and what's happened in Nebraska. But not only that, but the television numbers across the board right now, for volleyball to be the third most watched sport, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive.
I think that the thing that everybody has to keep in mind is that there's a large percentage of ADs who don't want more work. And when Bob says take away money from women's basketball, Bob, you do a disservice to women's basketball.
Well, I didn't say
no, but that's how ADs think. Who do you want me to take the money from? And I think, and that's what I mean by less work. I think that ADs, as we say, go talk to them. There's always going to be the AD who says, well, don't you like playing in the smaller arena with a full crowd? What he's basically saying is, if we move to the big arena, I got to do more work. And do I really want to do that? That's what he's saying.
Well, that and the budget.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning that we should take money away from women's basketball, but we put so much
Why
money
not?
into women's sport. And if you had to put half of that money into women's volleyball, how much further could it be right now?
I think it needs to be, we can all make revenue, right? That's the thing. And one of my biggest goals, I always wanted it to be, is I wanted volleyball at Michigan State to be in the black. That was important. Like, we have a big budget. Can we, get the fans there? Can we get the fundraising there? Can we get all of it to kind of come together so that we're in the black? That was important. And I think you can do that. And I just know that the ADs don't mind after a while when you start to make that kind of money, but you have to have that effort pushed forward from a lot of people to make that happen. And so you have to have people.
Well, and the other thing is the college coaches don't necessarily want that kind of pressure. Once you get your program built up, and I'll take Northern Iowa. She has been wonderful out there. She's absolutely taken that program after Iraj was there, and continued to build it competitive every year. and all at once had a drop off. I don't know what happened, but changed assistant coaches, and maybe the talent wasn't there one year, and the expectation was so high for her, and the program fell down. Now she's finally got it back, but it's taken her 3 or 4 years to get that program back. And if you have to be good every year and you have one of your key players leave, like if Sis left Creighton, what would that do to Creighton right there? Or one of those programs that are right there with 6 or 7 players, but not 10 or 11 great players. And so they can't afford injury or loss of a player, and they're trying to keep going. Another one is Rice. Rice has been terrific the last 4 or 5 years. Now they get upset by Louisiana early in the second week, and they've got a whole fan base that's coming and filling that facility now at Rice. They finally have air conditioning. Fun place to play if there's air conditioning. Not so fun.
How do you
when
not
we
have air
played there
conditioning in
without air
Texas?
conditioning? Let me tell you.
I don't know how you
So
do that.
those are things that, you know, we like to see the sport grow. Everybody wants to see the sport grow, but all at once, a lot of pressure on the coaches. Let me tell you, for Pettit to advocate getting out of Memorial Coliseum, he had to coach there 24 years plus. For Jarrett to advocate going to a 16,000 seat arena, he has to be there 21, 22 years and have great success to have enough confidence to take his program out and still think that he can win and draw more fans. So it takes coaches with gumption, right? Coaches got to have a lot of guts and got to know that they can continue to develop and produce out there, or otherwise, you know, it doesn't work so well for you sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out our Buzz reaction. I just want to remind the listeners that next week's show is going to be about college international mix. We're going to do both things. We're going to give you a little bit about women's college play and how some coaches are doing double duty. All right, as well as talking about the international game. And Bill is going to educate us all on the qualifying event and all the particulars going into this one in Poland. And we're going to bring some information to you all about that. I also want to mention that next week we'll talk a little bit about the MasterCoaches College Transfer Showcase, which is going to be held down in Tampa at the AVCA convention on Saturday, just before the championship match. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next week as we get all the particulars about that event on our website and then out to you all.